The lights grow dim, a hush descends. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Tough crowd.
Oh no, you can't.
Can you hear me at the back? Tim, can you hear me at the back?
Yes.
Great stuff. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlefolk, welcome to this, our AGM of the Friends of Sunrising. This is actually our 10th such AGM. Thank you so much to you all for making the effort yet again to be here. It's really good to see you all. Regulars amongst you, which I suspect is most of you, will recall that last year, of course, we were forced out of this, our usual favoured venue, because of the renovations to the place, and we were in Oxhill Chapel? Oxhill Chapel. And I do remember saying at that point that we were hoping that last year we would be doing the AGM in the surroundings of the Longhouse, that being the newest building that has arisen at the burial ground. And also I remember optimistically ending with maybe next year, but now that the Longhouse is operational and functional, and whilst it does serve, as we had hoped, as the perfect venue for funeral services, we realised that there isn't really enough space there to comfortably accommodate the numbers that we always have here, together with the amenities like the refreshments and so forth. So we're back here enjoying the fruits of the very renovation that kept us away last year. So again, thank you for being here. My role today will be minimal, so huge sigh of relief for those of you who are steeling yourselves at smiling politely at the same old jokes that I trot out every year. The bulk of the presentation will be being given by David and Emma and Belou. So presentation of the very highest and most eloquent quality from these seasoned, experienced speakers. My role is very much go through the housekeeping, talk through the agenda, and then hand across to David. The agenda, I really, as you know, every year I just read out what you see on the screen there. This will be divided between, as I say, David, Emma, and Belou. We will start with the aims and objectives of the Friends and the burial ground. We will give a little reintroduction to the trustees and membership. We'll talk about the fund. We'll talk about the events and the projects in some detail. Further developments at Sunrising, the nature reserve element, getting involved, which is something that we always strive to emphasise to folk, to encourage people to become involved. And at the end of this section, there will be the date of the next AGM and any other business. I'll also mention that throughout the presentation, the photographs you see will all have been taken by Sunrising staff unless otherwise credited. I think I'm done. So I'm going to hand over already to David, and I will see you in a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Very good afternoon to you all. As membership secretary, it's been suggested that perhaps I just take the opportunity to recap on the aims and objectives, talk a bit about membership, and then I'll hand over to Emma, who will then talk about the fund and move things on from there. You don't need to read this if you don't want to. The Constitution is quite formal, the objects here, the main focus being on the role of the Friends to support the work of the Sunrising Natural Burial Ground Company in the creation and maintenance of a burial ground, but also in the development and maintenance of the nature reserve in the long term. Those are the two key objects that we have. Framed by the Charities Commission helping us do that, which meant we then had to translate it into some sort of practical form. And really what that boils down to at this stage is three main things. One is raising a capital fund, because eventually when the burial ground is full, we're still going to need to maintain it as a nature reserve. So part of the game there is to raise enough of a capital fund so that we can then continue, ideally, through interest and other investments and possibly through continued fundraising, continue to fund that into the long term. The second part is actually the active joining in creating the nature reserve. Part of that comes from suggestions and ideas, part of that comes from volunteering, part of that comes from simply being a subscribing member and fundraising to support what we're doing. Part of that is actually the beautiful cakes that you've brought along here to contribute to that, which feeds very nicely into the third item that we've picked up, which is nurturing the community. And it's absolutely delightful to have so many people here. I was remembering when we started, we weren't sure whether that room would be too big for us. And I remember setting up shop in there, really praying and hoping that people would come along. So it's really nice to be back here, first of all, where I've not had to turn anybody away, where we had to last year. But also in terms of nurturing the community, this is the real heart of it. But we'll then look a little bit later at the sort of activities that are encouraging people to be involved and engaged with the nature reserve, and of course the burial ground too. Trustees, a quick shout out for trustees. Bruce, who you will have recognised there, who's shot out for the time being, is the current chair. Emma, here, all of you I'm sure will know, she's the treasurer officially for here. Myself as the membership secretary, so I'm just doing it in that order. And then we have Belou sitting over here. Jane, who's sitting over there, you will have probably seen her as you arrived. And then finally Dawn. There's Dawn. Now, Dawn isn't fully fledged yet. She's just going through quite a lot of paperwork, need to get signed up. But we're absolutely delighted to have her on board. And can I say that Lizzie might be rejoining? Some of you will remember Lizzie. In fact, many of you, I'm sure, remember Lizzie, who's sitting quietly in the back there. Yeah, just waving away. Lizzie, it sounds like she's going to rejoin us. I don't know what made her think she should take on that punishment, but we'll be delighted if she does, because she's always a really good source of inspiration. I'll try not to step back again. So, membership. That's yourselves and everybody else who is a subscribing member. Again, no need to worry too much about the numbers there. The main thing I'll just show or flag up for you is the subscriptions for last year were 353. So that our years run from September the 1st to the 31st of August. So for last year, we had 353 subscriptions. And it might be confusing. I wasn't sure whether to put this figure up, but our membership is actually 370. It's not that I'm bad at maths. It's just that some people have paid for more than 1 year, some people have paid in advance, some people are honorary members. For example, trustees, as it happens, get a little perk of being an honorary member. So those numbers there, 370, are actually correct. That's a current membership, although the subscriptions that came in last year were 353. If you want to chew the fat with me on that, you're very welcome to, because I'll get very confused as I try to explain it to you. Main thing you can see, the numbers continue to rise. Absolutely wonderful to see lots of renewals happening, which of course is again the core of our community. Just within context, that was 350 odd members. We have 1,614 individuals laid to rest. You'll know that that figure will have come from Emma, not from me, who tends to round things. But that constitutes about 20% of those who are buried have a current subscribing member, which is very encouraging. It's a very high proportion of membership relative to those who are laid to rest at sunrising. So again, that's very encouraging. Righto, I'm going to hand over to Emma, and she's going to take you through the fund as the next step.
Do I need to move the down thing? Yes, great. Yes, 1,614 was at the 31st of August. We're now up to Liberty? 1625. And it's lovely just to feel that community growing. So my job here is to talk about the fund. By that I mean the amount of money that we have put aside to look after sunrising in the long term. The fund comes from 3 sources: commission, fundraising, and gift aid and interest. By commission, we mean for every grave that's sold, a proportion goes to the Friends. And really it's the biggest input to the Friends each year, our commission level. Fundraising is what you do, what we do with you. That's raising money through all the different events and projects, and our little boxes and selling cards and honey and whatever it may be. And gift aid and interest. Some of you do gift aid because you are taxpayers. It makes a huge difference to gift aid. We are currently getting about £2,000, £3,000 a year from HMRC. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Yeah. And of course, as we get more money, we are investing it in different ways, which I'll talk about. That also means we're getting interest from the bank, and especially at the moment where interest rates are going up. At the moment, I should have a little blower, kind of one of those party blowers. We've just gone over the £200,000 mark. We're about £205,000 in the fund. And you can see that that is a very nice curve in terms of what we're doing. This just gives you an idea of where that money's coming from in terms of what we're doing. So the yellow ones at the top, the little yellow bit is gift aid and interest. The fundraising donations is the big green bit in the middle, and the commission is there at the bottom, which is great. You can see that in 2020-21 it was significantly higher, and that was just because of a couple of large donations. Not that we had a lot more little ones. And we're just around level on that £29,000 a year in terms of our annual income. That gives you an idea of what we're aiming for. But actually, one of the important things that allows people to feel confident about giving to a charity is knowing how much of the money they give gets paid out on various bits and pieces. How much are you paying your staff and how much is your admin? So I wanted to make it clear to you how much actually goes out. Well, this year it's simply this, or pretty much this. £95 for the AGM, £20 for our gambling licence. Why do we need a gambling licence? It's actually, you need it just for, as many of you who know, who run small charities and our event, you need it for raffles, tombolas, things like that. Postage, website, email, the fundraising regulator, which is a standards body, and the big chunk. We take lots of money from all of you, and then we have to pay an accountant to confirm it's all right, so the charity commission are comfortable with what we're doing. So that's the big figure at the bottom, which adds up to around £700, or about 2.5% of the donations and commissions. So all our income, our outgoings are only about 2.5%, which I think is pretty good. That's partly because the Natural Burial Company supports a lot of what we're doing. So we're paying for things still in time that the Friends will have to pay for. There are occasional costs. For example, we've just reprinted the leaflets, and that costs us £370. That's in this financial year because I just did it last week. But that's another occasional. We probably won't have to do that for another 2 or 3 years. That's 1,000 leaflets. So I just wanted, at the bottom I put performers and speakers for this event with Simon Dirk from Warwickshire Wildlife Trust. We have actually also paid Warwickshire Wildlife Trust a donation for him to come. Often our speakers we don't pay because they come for free, and we try to do that, but we are happy to donate a little bit to Warwickshire Wildlife Trust, given that they support us so wonderfully in all that we do in creating the nature reserve. Sometimes we pay also for musicians, the bands that play every other year, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So where is the fund? Again, I think it's important that you feel confident in what we're doing with the money that you help us raise, or in fact that you give to us. I just love that photograph. So the money at the moment is in a current account, a deposit account with our current account is the co-op. Our deposit account is with the charity bank. So all the money we put into the charity bank is then used through the charity communities. We have a fixed term bond with Cambridge and Counties Bank, which is again a bank with a very strong ethical policy. And we have investments. We have, of our £200,000, 90,000 of that is in ethical investments. And we use a company in Cheltenham for that called Ethical Investments. And this I put on a white screen because it's important. Bam! These are our policies. Banking, all our banks are with the FCSC, the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, of course. And we look at them for a reasonable rate of interest, but it's important that they have an ethical policy which is absolutely clear. For us here, we want to make sure that we're not investing where our money is used for armaments, for drugs, for whatever else, tobacco, oil, all the things that seem to be destroying our beautiful planet. So we are very clear. If you would like to know more about our ethical investment, our banking policy, and all of those things, just ask. Our policies are all written down and accessible. So what's our target? We think that we have, I said 30 years, it's not 30 years now, it's 27 years more of burial. Because we think that we'll stop selling new graves in about 2050. That gives us 27 years to put enough in the pot so that that amount of money can then be used to hire, to maintain a caretaker who will be looking after the grounds and looking after our maintenance. Let's throw out £1 million. How about we get £1 million in 27 years? We've got 200,000, how about we go for £1 million? Of course, that's not thinking about inflation, and in 27 years, £1 million might be £10.50 in today's, But ignoring inflation, because donations will increase, interest will increase, everything will increase with inflation. £1 million, it's a little bit of a stretch. At £25,000 a year income, we're only getting up to about £850,000, £850,000, which is where we're still thinking about maybe extra other ideas for streams of income or legacies. The opportunity to give us a bit more in terms of what you do donate. We're very happy when people say, no, you're in my will, that's great. And in fact, that extra chunk of money we had the other, a few years ago, one of those came from a legacy, and it makes a lot of difference to us. So the occasional person who can put in £5,000 or £20,000 into a legacy from their will is just marvellous. That's really what we're after. And we do have our A Lasting Gift Legacies leaflet over there. It's hard. I don't like talk about money because I'm English. And asking for money is even harder, but it's so important what we're doing here. And if you intend to be laid to rest with us, or you have a loved one laid to rest with us, it makes sense, doesn't it, if you were to leave a little bit to us for that purpose. I'm now going to hand over to Belou, who's going to go over our events and projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma. You'll have to forgive me, I've got notes. I'm not quite as pro as everybody else.
Make sure you're speaking loud enough.
I'll do.
Put it up.
Technical assistance. Thank you, David. So I'm sure all of you know by now that the events we have at Sunrising are a mixture of those that are specifically fundraisers for the Friends, events run just by the company with the Friends stall there, and those events that are more about the Friends community or the nature reserve. This year we've managed quite a few. although I'm sure I don't have to tell you if you've been attending them, this year's been perhaps a little rainier than usual, but we have still managed to get together, starting with the Dawn Chorus, with our new arrival to the team, Steve. On hand, we had a Dawn Chorus walk, which we haven't managed for quite a number of years. It was a really lovely gathering. There were about 20 or so of us just gently walking around sunrising, listening to the early morning bird song, trying to learn a bird call or two. Not sure how successful I was, but there was also plenty of donuts and cake there, a great fundraiser, just over £121 there. In May, we had our open day. Now, the entrance to the Longhouse still wasn't quite finished back in May, so we had a bit of a low-key event, but we still managed to put on what we hope was a good show for all. Steve had a wonderful nature table with little beasties from the pond and other treasures. We had Kaz from Wild Heart Coffins, which is based in Leamington Spa, and she was demonstrating how a woven coffin is made, as you can see here on the photograph. Some of you may have even managed to have a go on the day. We also set up the Longhouse as if it was for a funeral, with another of Kaz's beautiful coffins and some stunning flowers from Jackie at Hope and Glory in Tysoe. You can see it really was a beautiful day there for our open day, a really lovely community feel for those that managed to attend, and we raised £226.86 there, so thank you if you managed to come along. Nature walks. This year we had 3 walks, all in June, some in the rain, some in the sunshine. About 10 people on each walk, with Emma and Steve pointing out the flora and fauna around sunrising. And this beautiful photograph of a southern hawker dragonfly was taken on one of those days by Anne Gardner. So thank you, Anne, for this incredible photograph. And across those 3 walks we raised £144.22, which is great. The role of remembrance, a time to gather and read aloud. Just under 1,700 names this year of those remembered at sunrising. You can see here Jane and Liberty manning a table quite overflowing with cake. And despite the role of remembrance not being a fundraising event specifically, we raised an incredible £485.80. And we even had some sunshine in the end. We all managed to gather outside. So really thank you to the readers on the day there. Nicola's dinner. What a fabulous event. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but I've heard glowing reports about the food, the conversation, all in all, quite the party. I think this photo gives a great idea of the setup, and I hope a few people here managed to attend. Nicola's dinner was an incredible money raiser, £662.24 to be precise. So thank you to Nicola, all the helpers that were there behind the scenes, and everybody that bought a ticket. Now, this photo doesn't quite do justice to Liberty's fabulous hay labyrinth, but fear not, it is still in situ, although it is gently mulching down into the ground. So if you do want to take a moment, go to Sunrising and have a look, please feel free to do so. It's in the middle of Sunrising this year, giving you a great perspective of the entire site. Sunset at Sunrising. This event wasn't that long ago. There were about 15 or 20 of us that gathered in the now quite chilly evenings, with our eyes peeled for hares, owls, bats, moths, whatever Mother Nature wanted to show us. It was a quiet evening, but with some gadgets we managed to listen and witness, as best you can in the dark, some bats. We saw a few moths, and we got to try out the infrared camera. So thank you for Steve for bringing that along. So what have we got planned for next year? Now, some events we don't have dates for yet, so please keep your eyes peeled on the newsletters and on the website. Check you're signed up. Keep looking at those so you have an idea of when these are coming up. First and foremost, we've got our planting weekend, just 2 weeks away on the 14th and 15th of October. We've got plenty of bulbs, wildflowers, some of our special seed packets there. To avoid the rush and the queues, please book in advance so we know what you want to purchase and we know when you'll be coming on the day. It stops everybody having to queue for a long time and get confused. Armistice Day, held at our cairn every year. Just a reminder, our cairn was erected to acknowledge the traumatic events of the Civil War and the effects it had on the surrounding villages, particularly with that first Battle of Edge Hill being so close to us, and it now stands in recognition of the peace that we can find in this place. All are welcome here. It's a completely non-religious gathering, a few words, some silence and the bugle. We gather at about 10:45 for 11 o'clock, and with Armistice Day falling on a Saturday this year, we hope that maybe a few of you that aren't usually able to attend might feel like coming along. Christmas. I know Christmas already, but bear with me. With the Longhouse finally here and able to provide shelter in the less predictable weather, what better use than for Christmas? We're going to have a Christmas event on Sunday, the 17th of December, so pop that down in your diaries. Prepare for refreshments, possibly festive themed, maybe some carols and music to listen to, a last chance to raid our friend's stall for Christmas presents and stocking fillers. And this year we're putting together a memory tree, so with a chance for everybody that attends to tie on a message, a memory, or the name of a lost loved one, and adorn our tree in an act of remembering those that have gone at a time that can be so hard for so many of us. So if you're free, it would be great to see you there. Pop in and support us. I know it seems so far away, but May 2024, we're hoping to hold our open day again with the Longhouse finally all complete. We might be looking at expanding this event from the one we had this year, so watch this space. And moving on to next summer, July 2024. Now we are extremely excited to have our music fundraiser coming up, and we're welcoming Just a Sax to play for us, comprised of, left to right, Barry Folkes, Christopher Paris, Louise Archer and Rose Farron. Now some of you might recognise Barry in this photo. He was one of the readers at our Roll of Remembrance, and he's also a funeral celebrant, so he really understands and appreciates just how special sunrising is. And I just want to read a message from Barry to give you an idea of what their vision is for the day. He says, "We are delighted to be invited to play at Sunrising, and for this special occasion we'll be assembling a programme of music that reflects the diversity of the people that Sunrising holds. Music from the early 20th century, Gershwin, Vaughan Williams, and then on with music through the decades, the 40s, the 50s, right up to the modern day, including swing band tunes, stage, film, TV music, chart hits, popular tunes, all interspersed with time-beat music from the Baroque and classical eras." He says essentially anything from Bach to Pixar Studios, featuring all the players at some point taking a solo, doing duets and playing all together. Not only music of the day, but also music of all nations, representing everyone at Sunrising who's found their way from wherever in the world they began to where they are now at Sunrising. Music from the UK, from France, America, Germany, India, Spain, Italy, Brazil, and so on. And after this world and era tour of music, they will leave Sunrising as they found it, in peace and tranquility, playing away with a lullaby. If that's not enough to make you want to attend, I don't know what else I can say. So please watch this space for confirmation on the date and more information. Now, this coming year, we're lucky enough to be able to put on a number of nature days with Emma, Steve and Liberty all showing off their knowledge and expertise in the wonderful setting of Sunrising. Now, this is a roe deer caught in our trail camera back in June at the south entrance. Yeah. Wonderful. So it's great to have proof that we do have so much life at Sunrising. Bear with me as I now whiz through some of the great nature days and events we've got planned coming up for you. Winter birds. In January of next year, we're hoping for a winter bird walk and talk Perhaps we'll be lucky enough to hear a song thrush like we can see perched on the Gilder Rose here. Spring at Sunrising, aimed in April 2024, a great chance to witness sunrising bursting into life and colour, just like these incredible cowslips. Primroses. Ignore me. We've got Spring Bird Song, early May 2024. If you want to come along, perhaps test the bird song you think you know, learn some more. This will be a great opportunity to do so. We've got Flora Walks. Our nature walks next year are going to be more flora themed, so keep your eyes peeled for further information on these. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you already do, next week, Insect Week, falls on the 24th to the 30th of June. And we're hoping to put together a series of events to pay tribute to these often forgotten treasures. Forgive me once more as I attempt to talk through these incredible insect photos. I apologise, Emma. Starting with a male swollen-thighed beetle on bloody cranesbill. We've got a vestal cuckoo bumblebee above common knapweed, a four-spotted chaser, and a short melanostoma on buttercup. Whew, well done. Moving swiftly on to butterflies. We've got a whole afternoon of them, hopefully, in July 2024. But if you're not tempted by insect or butterflies, how about bats? If so, then August next year is for you. Keep your eyes peeled, I say once again, for dates. If you can wait until October next year, then wrapping up our currently planned future events, we've got a fungi walk around Sunrising. This one I'm particularly excited about. I do hope this whistle-stop tour of upcoming nature events gets you excited for everything we've got planned, and hopefully we'll be seeing some of you there. Moving on quickly to our known and loved projects. So our projects raise money for the Friends, which I know is hugely important to all of you because you're here today. So thank you once again for coming. It's really important for the security and the longevity of Sunrising that we keep fundraising and we keep raising money. Starting with our jams, jellies and chutneys, £3,716 since 2018. Thank you, Jonathan. I don't know where he's hiding. Fresh stock today. So if you're running low, please no fighting. I know how long you've been waiting for the jams, but head on over to Liberty and I at the merchandise stall in the break and we'll be happy to replenish your stocks. Then of course we've got our autumn and summer tea towels, artwork designed by the brilliant Philip Bannister, who is hiding somewhere as well. Thank you, Philip. 100% organic cotton, bringing a wonderful £570 in profit. Our children's book, so where are we going exactly? It had a fairly hefty initial outlay, but we are now in profit, £172 to be exact. Again, these are Philip's beautiful paintings, words from the writers group. This follows the story of grandparents explaining to their grandchildren what happens at a natural burial ground, which is where they've chosen to be laid to rest. If you haven't seen this before or want to have a look through, you've got some just in the other room for you, so in the break, do come and have a look and see what you think. The always popular lapel pin, featuring our hair logo designed by Tim. I think Tim is here somewhere. Thank you, Tim. And look at that figure, £1,188. Excellent. And another talented friend of Sunrising, Carol, still making these great little hair purses. We have got some today, so do come along and have a look. All the material that Carol uses is recycled, old shirts, old jeans. They're a great little present. So thank you, and look at that incredible profit we've made. Jute bags. Our jute bags, they're made in England, our iconic Friends hair logo, perfect for all your jam and other goodies. I use mine every day so I can attest to their longevity. Key rings, still bringing in a wonderful profit. We've got potential to bring in more here, and just another way to adorn yourself with the hair logo. calendar, even more talent. Local photographer Richard Ellis donated these photos for our perennial calendar, and profit is now at a staggering £2,238 from these. How can we forget our sunrising cards, photographs by our very own Emma. These are printed with new pictures every year. They continue to add steadily to our fundraising. Plenty of stock today if you need to pick some up. And winter cards. We haven't yet printed these yet, but we do have an order form in the other room, so if you want to sign up for some packs, please do fill that in. You can see here the 6 designs that we've got this year. Each pack is a pack of 6. They're always left blank inside for your own message, so they're great for Christmas cards or just notelets. Now a moment of silence, please. Brace yourself, for there is no more sunrising honey. Since 2012, our ever-popular jars of fabulous honey brought in an amazing £7,177. Thank you to the bees. But fear not, I say. We have plans to buy in local honey from just up the hill at Sunrising. So although not Sunrising hives, we couldn't get much closer if we even tried. So that will be showing itself over the upcoming events. If you do see some of that honey for sale in the upcoming events, please pick one up, give it a go, let us know what you think. We'd be really interested to see what you think of that. Before I hand over to Emma, who's going to explain a little bit more about the bees and then go on to developments, I just want to remind you all that we are always looking for new ideas for projects, for events, for fundraisers, anything like that. So please, there's a suggestion box at the back of the hall. Any of us with a badge, come and grab us, have a chat with us, or send us an email. It'd be great to hear from you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David, could you put my thing down a bit, please? So one of the reasons we're not getting more hives on is because we found the liability of having bees on site was too much. If the bees got angsty about something and started stinging people, it was too difficult for us. But also thinking about wild bees and protecting our wild bees. A hive might have 20,000 bees. A bumblebee nest might have 300. So having 6 hives compared with, and all of those bees taking pollen and nectar from our plants, we thought actually as a nature reserve, which is quite small and developing, perhaps we should leave all of that nectar and pollen for our own wild bees. And put the hives up on an area where they are, where it's easier for the honeybees. Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful picture? That's a buff-tailed queen on water mint. So I'm going to skid through some developments at Sunrising. First of all, looking at, of course, the longhouse. Oh no, not first of all. We're looking first of all at staff. That lovely buttercup photo filled with light just reminded me of how lucky David and I feel. Well, running Sunrising was just me for many years, and then David, and then Liberty, and Lucia, and now Steve as well. So the 5 of us are a new team, getting to know each other. Steve has just been with us for almost coming up to a year. Or is it not that long? No, it's not that long. Feels like that long. Bless you, Steve. Feels like that long to him. And it's because he started working part-time with us in January. So I'm thinking of the whole cycle. But once he's been through a whole cycle of the seasons, and you'll get to know him as well, and all the wonderful things that he can offer, what we're doing. The Longhouse is now operating. We're using it for funerals and events. And how do I get it to play there? And it's being used by not just human people. It's just beautiful. That is the 8th of March this year, with a little bit of snow, little kestrel using the porch of the Longhouse. Robin's cabin, the cabin up at the north we've called Robin's cabin. That is going to start to become the cabin where we mostly meet people within the next couple of weeks, really. and also our toilets. We did go through some ideas about whether these should be open all the time or only open for events, and we made the decision that we really can only open them for events and funerals, because we don't have the capacity to look after them as public toilets, and people would start to use them as public toilets. So if you are visiting and the toilets are closed, we do apologise. It may be possible if you're absolutely desperate. There's staff on site, or you can find Steve, he can open them for you. But menfolk, compost bins always need a bit of urine, so do feel free to pee on the compost. We're very happy to have bike racks now up in the North Car Park, and to encourage people to come by bicycle. There's Steve on the roller. Just as we were finishing the last bit of tracks, one of the important things that David and I really wanted to do was complete the infrastructure of the whole nature reserve, all the buildings, all the tracks, all the heavy stuff, before we started to look at retiring. And we've pretty much got it all in place now, just a few more things to do. One of the lovely things that we managed to do this year was Peter's map. Peter was laid to rest at Sunrising in Peter Manship was laid to rest at Sunrising during COVID, and because his many friends and colleagues couldn't come during the COVID pandemic, they gave a donation, and we wanted to do something that was something that we were looking to do anyway. So you can see where it is, just in that beautiful place. And it's a little map, a topographical map in a resin that looks like bronze but isn't, which shows you exactly where you are in relation to the hills and the towns. So do explore it. You can see where it is when you look through the front of the longhouse, and you can see it at the back, just up there. Do have an explore. This is our, what do we call our QGIS map? It's our development map. And you can see the blue rectangle is the longhouse, and the new tracks and the cabins, just to show you this is where we were when none of that existed. And the last bit we had to do was the entrance. 3 weeks ago, that's what our top entrance looked like from inside. Then we had the lads, who were very good. A local team. We got Tysoe builders, which was really important to us to support local business. And amazingly, that's where they were halfway. And then the tarmac, incredibly expensive, horribly toxic, but required by the council, tarmac. And then the gates went in. So the gates are now in. They do need to be painted, which is a job for David, Liberty, Steve next week, not me. And in the sunshine. And you can see that it was a bit of a steep hill going out of the north entrance. Now it's all smooth, beautiful and rolled. And we've got new signs. So instead of just one sign at the main entrance, which was the main entrance at the bottom, that now says south entrance. And the north entrance, and that's the new gate from the outside, from the lane, says the north entrance. So now any event, whether it's a funeral or a sunrising event, will say north entrance or south entrance. I don't know who messed up my new tarmac. Look at all that mud on there. One of the last bits of major infrastructure that we're doing is putting in another drain line. We're always keen to make sure that even on this compacted heavy clay, we don't end up with standing water as the other fields do around us. And that's where the last line of drainage will be, just on the left of that. Yep, the left of that picture. That's the area of wildflower meadow, which was mown, grassed. That's the planned drain line, just we put it down. This is a nice thing that Liberty initiated the idea for. David started, but Steve's really taken it in hand, has been putting on post hats. These are little what we call post hats to stop the birds messing the plaques, which has been great, another great thing that Steve's done. That's about it in terms of development, but let's look at a few things in terms of the nature reserves, just a few headlines. And some of you here, I know, were a part of the Green Hay Meadows. So this is, again, you can see little Peter's map there on the right, and you can see that stretch down there of what will be, what we call it the torch, but what will be our last section of wildflower meadow. It's what we call the green hay meadow, because we're not ploughing it, we're not sowing it, we're just gently developing it with green hay, which means we take the hay off the established wildflower meadows and we spread it all over it with all the seeds in it. And then we get fabulous rakers. Steve and David and Liberty have done a lot of the work, but also some marvellous volunteers. And that's one of my favourite pictures, because when it's really heavy, you really want the wind to help spread those seeds. And they are. That is taken at the beginning of the summer in the torch. So that was from green hay we did last year. This is without any sowing wild seeds, dry seed. We're actually just using the hay. And at the beginning of the summer again. So it's starting to get there. And just a note to talk about Steve as an input. He's here as a groundsman and also as our nature reserve person to really help as I have less energy and less time. But Steve's input, this is a nice bit, is we are looking at increasing habitats for all kinds of creatures. This is the orange tip. You can see the top of the wings, the orange tip on the white, and then the underwings, which is that lovely lacy green. Orange tips are dependent on cuckoo flower and garlic mustard. Cuckoo flower we're managing to get going around the pond, but garlic mustard likes all the hedge bottoms, so we've got some seed and we're going to be seeing if we can really get some garlic mustard going this year. We've also had an idea I had a long time ago, but Steve actually picked it up or even came up with it himself, and I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to do, which was create a bit of a temporary pond, or a pond that comes and goes near the longhouse, because we've got some water there, it gets a bit boggy, so we're just going to try and drain all that water into an area which will be a pond up there. So we'll see how that works. We're also working more on deadwood and beetle habitats. Isn't that wonderful? That's a purple?
Violet.
A violet. Violet ground beetle, thank you. And you'll see as you walk around Sunrising now, we're starting to tidy up and extend the log piles, the brush piles, and all of those lovely beetle habitats. Some of you were here a few years ago planting the line of trees in that loose corridor of trees along the northern boundary, which is now called Molly's Hedge. Every area is named after the first person buried, but in fact Molly was the first person who was acknowledged or remembered along this hedge, so it's now called Molly's Hedge. So thank you. We had about 10 to 15% that got lost in the drought. We've replanted some of those, and they're actually just starting to go well. We've had a really good year in terms of being lovely and wet for the trees. So we've done it pretty well. We're going to cut the blackthorn at the back in rotation to see if we can get some more habitat for the brown hair-streak butterfly, which we've not found yet, but many people have it around and never see it. It's a very elusive butterfly, but we're out looking for brown hair-streak eggs in the next couple of weeks. This is a really exciting thing. I don't have one with me, but they're on the table next door. We've now eventually managed to get done our Explorer map, which is another leaflet which you can find in a leaflet dispenser at the burial ground. And this has an explorer path. So the purple gives you an idea of a good route to take if you want to walk all the way around. And one of the things it does is takes you through to different habitats, but it also takes you to our HIBs. HIBs are habitat interpretation boards, and there you can see all the different HIBs that we've got. I don't know how many of those you can read. The land and its past next to our stone, the ruderal margin, the wildlife pond, the wildflower meadow, has all the information about the habitat in front of you and how we manage it. And we've got a few changes. That one was by the old cabin, but is now moved because it's young woodland, and the woodland by the old cabin is just starting to mature. So we've moved it to an area with slightly younger trees. This is actually Molly's hedge. So we've got one up by Molly's hedge explaining why we planted those trees. And then that's about the green hay. And you see that picture of Marion, in fact, one of our hearty volunteers, throwing the hay up into the wind. And then grassy ride. This is an area which isn't a grassy ride at the moment. It's just grassland. But it's explaining to people what it will be. All of those last three are actually in the room at the back there, if you want to have a look at them, and they'll be going up on site. And they are a part of our Explorer leaflet. And the Explorer leaflets are in there as well, so do have a look and see if you take one if you'd like, or pick one up next time you're at Sunrising. And it gives you an idea of how to walk around and see the most that you can see. Now, despite our perfect habitat, what we don't have, but would like, and this is what we're really working towards, is things like slowworms. Maybe we do, but we've never seen one. These are legless lizards that would have plenty of prey to eat, little invertebrates at Sunrising. Also grass snakes that would have plenty of food. They eat the newts. We've got lots of newts and toads at Sunrising. Our compost heaps, the stony tracks, and all the areas of bare ground would all be perfect for these reptiles, which we don't have. We're going to work towards that. I love this picture. This is not a photograph taken off the internet. This is a photograph taken by Bruce of a little hedgehog that he found and took to a rescue centre, not at Sunrising. We have a perfect habitat for hedgehogs, grassy, tussocky margins and hedges, providing lots of shelter and foraging opportunities. And we know that there are hedgehogs in the villages all around, but there are no hedgehogs at Sunrising. That's because we don't have the right corridors to allow them to travel. And agricultural land is not good for hedgehogs, which is why we see hedgehogs in the villages. But we're doing what we can, working with other landowners, to try and get hedgehogs at Sunrising. We'd love them to come back. We're also looking at possibilities for other creatures, little baby creatures, like dormice and things like that. We're all just going through those ideas. Small blues, like kidney vetch. We've got some kidney vetch, not very much, and we're looking at planting a lot more. And the Duke of Burgundy butterfly is dependent on cowslips. We've got cowslips, don't we? And as the larger area of meadow starts to get those cowslips going, maybe we'll have enough. But again, how do we get them to us? We're just working out the logistics of, because there are no colonies of Duke of Burgundies in Warwickshire, but maybe there's a way that we can help, all of these things we're thinking about. Isn't that great? At the moment we have the last moth count, we had 595 species of moth recorded at Sunrising. I love that. The little furry one on the left is a white ermine, and then the one on the right is a barred sallow, and the one at the top on the left is a buff arches. Just love that. Those are all taken by Alan Pryor, our moth man. So I really want to end here just by thanking all of the people who we work with. Alan Pryor, our mothman, and all the other mothers. Mike Pollard at the Banbury Ornithological Group has just left, but the BOS, Banbury Ornithological, wonderful to work with them, as with the Barn Owl Group, and those who help us with identifying, like Carl Portman, who helps us with spiders, Mike Slater, who does butterflies. Wonderful people. We're all enormously grateful to all our associates and partners. And that's a small heath on a dandelion. What a great picture. Isn't it lovely? And I'm going to hand over to David. And that's it. That's the end of my voice, my legs.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we saw at the beginning, part of the remit of the charity of the Friends of Sunrising is to support the creation of the nature reserve, but also to nurture the community. And the business of getting involved with it is what this section is about now. In terms of opportunities, the sorts of things that are available, of course, range from helping with events and fundraising, whether it's simply bringing a cake along, helping with refreshments, all the way through to more active work, which might be mulching, hay spreading, as you saw a little bit earlier. But a range of opportunities, partly to contribute to the first object of fundraising, the second, which is maintaining the nature reserve, but the third is also the community that bonds and builds from that too. So just a quick zip through some of the things that we did last year. Pond clearing. David, who's here, is there in the pond helping us to clear out. We did a very big clear out this year and successfully, actually, I think brought more dragonflies in. They like to have clear water. They tend to prefer clear water, and I think that was really helpful in getting them back a little bit more. Big job on, we'll have come October time to do the same thing again. Mulching, that's again another winter task, not necessarily the warmest of experiences, but invaluable in terms of protecting the smaller whips and trees ahead of what could be very, very dry summers. And certainly that served us very well, holding the moisture in for the trees, meaning we can reduce the amount of watering that we've had to do, but at the same time also keeping away the weeds, all of which helps very much with the development of the trees. So that's always been successful. Some of you will have had this experience. It's mixed feelings one has about this, which is you put on a pair of gloves and you just go and squeeze every single beetle on a viburnum that you can find. This Gelder Rose, you can see, we did quite a good job with this one. It's looking very, very healthy. And certainly this year, the results, for those of you who were involved particularly, but for everybody generally, it's worth doing it, it seems, because this year everything recovered very well. They still appear, and I think Emma and Liberty have a task to now go and nip out some of the eggs that they'll spot where beetles have actually gone and laid again. So certainly the tide of beetle has been stemmed, but that will be some ongoing work there. Again, thank you to the volunteers who were involved with that. Cleaning plaques, that's a really nice activity, very useful activity. But usually an annual thing, just an opportunity to go around plaques and make sure that they're at tip-top best, sometimes with a toothbrush. I sometimes think of a military context where you're there on the pavement with your toothbrush. Same sort of game, particularly the northern-facing ones you'll have noticed tend to green up a little bit. So it's a chance just to get them up to scratch. And again, a really nice thing to do, actually, to mull over some of the plaques that we come across there. Hay spreading. Emma's already talked quite a bit about that, so I won't say very much more about it, apart from say we had some fantastic volunteers and they ran out of work to do. They just did it so well. We had a little bit of challenge with when we could cut the grass and with the rain, but they did a fantastic job. And I hope you'll notice how wonderfully colour coordinated they are with their rakes. It took us hours to work out who is going to be using what rake for the photos. Very grateful for them to come along and do that with us. Butterfly transects. This is something that is a bit more specialised. David, who's sitting here with us today, has taken that role on. He's now been doing it for a couple of years, is becoming really good at that. But there is an opportunity for anybody else who has a particular interest in butterflies to come and get involved with that. That's been really valuable, and certainly from my point of view, although I sometimes miss the transects, I've had a chance to do a couple this year, it has freed up a lot of time. Thank you, David, and given us a much more consistency for the data, because week in, week out, he's been diligently coming along to carry out those transect counts. Surveys, we did have this in place a few years ago in a sort of informal level, and then COVID came in and we stopped. But flora surveys, although we are continuing to do that on an annual basis on selected areas of the site, we're hoping next year to open that up a little bit more for those who are interested and want to know more or learn, and for those who also have some knowledge already. We'll be encouraging people or inviting people to get involved with that too. Finally, just a very quick word about this. This was a suggestion that I think Jane, one of our trustees, came up with, which was, as trustees, sometimes it's a bit of a, how much are we going to be doing? How much work is it? And sometimes it might seem endless and unqualified and unboundaried. And her thought was that perhaps by opening up certain activities which are a little bit more boundaried and clear, might make it of interest to other members to become involved in. For example, looking after refreshments. At the moment we do have some regular volunteers who come and help us with that, but the idea is almost as if to step back a little bit further and say to a volunteer or a group of volunteers, would you like to just take full charge of that? Similar with volunteer days, handling that, with Christmas events, for example. So just narrowing the scope to a point where one might think, yeah, that's doable. I know roughly how much time I might need to allocate to it. So that's something that we are thinking about at the moment. And if that pings any interest with any of you here, of course, do give us a shout. But we'll also put it out to the wider community as well. Finally, volunteer mailing list. Quite a number of you here are on that. This is I'm not going to call it the hardcore mailing list, but it is quite a hardcore mailing list in the sense that it's the list where if you're on it, we'll send you out an email almost at no notice at all and say, can you come and do some raking? Can you come and help us with this? Can you come and help us with that? Or perhaps slightly longer term. So for those of you who are interested in being more actively involved, particularly at the nature reserve level, I would suggest, I might be wrong about that. And cake. Oh, at the cake level. So quite a range. If you're interested in that, do let Jane know. She'll put your name down. As I say, quite a few of you here are already on the list. Good. Bruce, if I may, I'm going to hand over to you then to finish off. Thank you very much.
Seamless. Right, thank you David, Emma, Belou. Top-notch stuff, as promised. You know, that's the first time I've ever been able to actually sit and watch the presentation. I really enjoyed it. I feel quite lazy, but I was very glad to be able to do it. Really good, I think, to see videos as well of the deer and the kestrels. We must try and get more of that sort of stuff. That was really nice to see. And, of course, an official and open invitation to men to pee on the compost heaps. I didn't see that one coming, so thank you, Em.